Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and here's the deal. A lot of people should be paying attention to what is going on via the propaganda of the intel community, guys like Mike Pompeo, of whom you should have never trusted. No siree, Bob. Mike Pompeo, not your friend. If for some reason you're attending conferences where Mike Pompeo is up there, be very, very weary, okay? This is a guy who is the ex-director of the CIA who is on camera laughing about how they lied, cheated, and stole in the Central Intelligence Agency and had entire courses on it. This all coming through with an administration that had John Bolton in it, who's now openly bragging about what? Cooing other governments. And the latest report that we're going to talk about is the one on the potential assassination of Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and others by Iran. Now, first of all, Iran, some would say, has the motive to do so via the Soleimani killing under the Trump administration. Something I was very against, something I think should have never happened. For those that don't know, Soleimani was directing many of the Iranians that came in and fought ISIS when Russia came in. Remember that? Remember when Russia had had enough of the ISIS garbage and said, you know what, we'll take care of it. We'll come in. All right? So they literally were fighting ISIS under Soleimani, and then he gets drone bombed. And look, in that country, you had tens of thousands of people out in the street. In my opinion, that gives a great cover for if something like this were to happen, right, or allowed to happen, they could easily blame Iran and Russia, whether it was them or not. But I assure you, if one of these things did happen, all right, they would be allowed. And right now, Joe Biden is in the Middle East. We're going to cover that. And we're also going to cover, because I believe if something like this were to happen, okay, it would be in succession with another attack or event that might decapitate our government for the last time. We're talking big time disaster. And that's why we're going to go over this New York City PSA ad that has been making the rounds not only in alternative media circles, but in the mainstream as well at this point, because it was just such a profoundly, like, in-your-face, stay calm, listen to the government, go home if there's a nuclear attack in New York. Let me say this, okay? If you happen to be in New York City or New York State and a nuke happens anywhere, it's time to leave and get as far away as possible if, in fact, you survive. Let me repeat that. The opposite of what they said is true. Get out by any means necessary, because that is going to be a focal point for all sorts of terrible, okay? Now, before we go any further here, you know, we're on Rumble, okay? We're on Rockfin, and we may not be on this platform, YouTube, much longer. Yet again, this morning, I had a video removed because of what? The World Health Organization. Again, this is a video that is over 2 years old, and it's supposedly about the old this. Those weren't even being distributed at the time. I haven't watched the video. I may have to download it and grab it and put it up on other platforms. But again, they almost kicked me off. They let me keep my YouTube channel and didn't give me a strike because I must not have known. But this shows you, all right, that I might not be on these other platforms. So you might need to go over to Rumble, go over to Podbean, get a Rockfin, and once again, guys, while you can, share the documentary films such as Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order, Define and Shade the Motion Picture. Support me by buying me a coffee. Okay, let's get her going. So this was an exclusive, all right, from Yahoo News a couple days ago on the 13th. And here's the deal. This is supposed to be a private, secret memo. It took place about a month ago, I believe, on June 16th, according to this article. And again, it's presented by people like Pompeo, who you should not trust, as Biden begins his trip in the Middle East. Okay? For those that don't know, Biden once again just started off over in Israel saying you don't need to be Jewish to be a Zionist. For those that don't know, what I consider a Zionist at this point, it would almost be like a neocon under the Bush administration, right? So a lot of people argue, Zionism ended when Israel exists, but you could just say the pro-Israeli regime. And obviously, the Israeli Anglo-American Saudi alliance that has, in my opinion, projected a war on terror with that alliance, not protected us from a war on terror. You know what I'm saying? It has been there for some time. I mean, you go all the way back to the Iran-Contra days, and it was, the Israeli military buying or intel agencies buying the weapons, right, from Czechoslovakia and Poland, shipping them down to South America. They would be shipped up by U.S. intel, okay, and then distributed, and then those funds would then be used to pay off the Israelis in this nice little proxy nightmare, okay? Do we got that? So there's just no way that, Pompeo is to be trusted. Neither is Kenna McKenzie and the others. Donald Trump also on the list. And you know what? Trump should watch his ass. I'll be quite honest about that. Look, Donald Trump, in my opinion, far from perfect. But every single time he did or said something that, in my opinion, was positive. For instance, Donald Trump, the first president to acknowledge the military-industrial complex since who? The guy that told you about it, Eisenhower. No one else touched that. No one else admitted that was real. No one else admitted that they were putting pressure on him and his administration and the decisions that were being made. All right? You got to give him credit for that. No one else stood up in front of the World Economic Forum after being introduced by Klaus Haus himself and talked about the evils of this quote-unquote climate agenda, how what they want is more power and control over people. And that's the reality of that situation. It's what they've always wanted. Just pointing out, putting it out there. So here's the thing. Right now, people don't realize how much is really escalating via the Ukraine, and they should. This is within 24 hours. It's a brand new article and piece over at Sky News. We're actually not going to play this piece. I'm going to show you some other articles, but you should check into it. All right? 22 killed in Russian missile strike. The Kremlin is now accusing the U.S. and U.K. of hybrid warfare, and we've been covering this ad nauseum because Elon Musk, okay, and we'll bring that up right here. Elon Musk, the guy that made a 600% wealth increase during the COVID-19 84 nightmare, again, more than Bezos, Gates, Buffett, Page, or Brin, that much of a wealth increase, has been goading Russia, okay, on Twitter, including a space agency head that we'll get to in a moment, who has said, what? Oh, we could just nuke all the NATO nations within about 20 minutes. Half hour max. What? Now, this piggybacking on this PSA about a nuclear strike, and they tell you in the thing, don't worry about how it happens or where it happens or why it happens, just listen. All right? So Musk is literally goading these people while he arms the Ukrainians. There he is with Peter Thiel, there's this brain chip stuff, with blackjack satellites, all right? And the commercial version, Starlink. Now, the blackjack satellites, that's DARPA's little Starlink version. That's what is ridden via military cargo. By the way, they launched military cargo today. SpaceX launching military cargo today. In fact, if you're on Rumble, okay, the only reason I found this out is because it was on Rumble in the top section. Another launch of SpaceX launching military cargo around the world. We already know the Central Intelligence Agency is down on the ground in the in the Ukraine, period. And we've now armed them with longer range missiles. And by the way, so if you don't understand that, Musk is a sustainability guy, okay? He was their man of the year at one point, and that these drones they're using, the Ghosts and the Sidewinders, are directly linking up with his commercialized satellites, and they're sending other ones. You're not in reality. This guy is helping to spark World War, don't call it 3, don't call it 4, World War Endgame. All right? Because if a nuclear war pops off, you better believe martial law is there for the survivors. And you better believe there will probably be a multitude of assassinations, which you could blame on whoever. I mean, the control system, the narrative management after that would be over-frickin-whelming. All right? So now they're talking about Ukraine may develop its own nukes. Oh, that's lovely. We haven't been talking about that. How would they just develop their own nukes? Would they develop their own nukes, or would they be given those weapons in a covert manner? By the way, 167 watching, not even 100 thumbs up. Let's get those thumbs up. We don't even have 50 thumbs up. And look, when we talk about Joe Biden being at the top of this list for assassination, let me just say this. I know Alex Jones has talked about his mother talking about one last job for Joe to do, to be that sacrifice, right? To then be portrayed as some kind of martyr. My brother said the same thing. And we know Zombie J runs nothing. He can't speak, folks. He couldn't speak on the campaign trail. He runs nothing sauce. Nothing. Okay? So, just so everybody understands, Putin has made about 30 nuclear threats. Medvedev's talked about them, saying don't go too far. Don't do it. And this guy right here, all right, the Russian head of the Kremlin Space Agency, take a look, has said half an hour, we get them all. Guess what? Guess what? He's heading for the Ukraine, according to a report. This is today. This is today. So we're going to play the PSA in a moment, and there's YouTube kicking me off for medical misinformation. Again, who knows if I'm going to be here, but I do need you guys' support. So today, the guy that threatened to nuke everybody, and Putin's been saying, don't escalate, don't send your troops down, don't give them long-range missiles. We're not listening at all, and that's happening. Look at what happened after 9/11. If we had a nuclear strike anywhere in this country, can you imagine where we would be at? Continuity of government program everywhere. So I'm going to just play this, and it's pretty wild. Then we're going to play an AP piece on top of it, okay? First of all, I want to say, it looks pretty poorly done in the background. It's not great computer graphics. It's not highly detailed. It's not even like Xbox One level, in my opinion, which is an older system at this point. I think 2013, almost a decade old. But what it is dystopian, and there's no one out there, and it's just let's let it speak for itself.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how or why, just know that the big one has hit.
Don't ask me how or why.
Okay, so what do? There are 3 important steps that I want you to remember. Step 1, get inside fast. You, your friends, your family, get inside. And no, staying in the car is not an option.
Staying in the car is not an option. In other words, by all means, don't try to leave. Don't try to get out. Okay? That's the last thing we want you to do. Huh?
You need to get into a building and move away from the windows. Step 2, stay inside.
Stay inside. Shut your doors and windows. They told you to do this, by the way, and have a great air system during the you-know-what nightmare. Stay inside. Get inside, stay inside, get inside, stay inside. Listen to authorities. Go to your television. Go to your little box.
Shut all doors and windows. Have a basement? Head there. If you don't have one, get as far into the middle of the building as possible. If you were outside after the blast, get clean immediately. Remove and bag all outer clothing to keep radioactive dust or ash away from your body. Step 3, stay tuned. Follow media for more information. Don't forget to sign up for Notify NYC for official alerts and updates. And don't go outside until officials say it's safe.
Yeah, better listen to the government. Stay tuned to the media. Don't get out. Don't get out. Don't escape.
All right, you've got this.
You've got this. I mean, and again, I mean, hit these guys on social media. Call them the lunatics that they are. But what this does is it sets up a precedent. For instance, remember that report on the assassinations itself was supposed to be secret, and it's from a month ago. And now it's been leaked to the media magically. And now there's a preparedness of the media magically about nuclear warfare, while Russia is threatening nuclear warfare. And we're in, what, like 5th generation space warfare, folks. Let me repeat that for people that don't understand. We are in 5th generation space warfare. We did it in the 80s. In the 80s. Let's see. Do we have it here, or is it in my regular spot here? We do it live. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. Where are we? Do we have a Reagan here? Is that my man? Nope, that's not it. Let's just type it in. Let's just strategic initiative it. Star Wars Reagan Time Mag. Nope, there it is. Okay. It's the Strategic Initiative Program. Defending Defense. Budget battles in Star Wars. And this was the real space race. You know, it wasn't about the Apollo program or Hollyweird NASA bullschnap. All right? It was like, oh my God, we have to create ARPA because the Russians have the first satellite system and they could weaponize space. And they have weaponized space. And the director of that space agency has said they can hit all NATO nations in 30 minutes, and he's headed to Ukraine now. Fantastic. I'm so excited. Just great stuff all around. So let's go to one of the talking heads for what you just saw right there, okay? This is an AP report, but we're actually going to talk to somebody, I believe, in the emergency management.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how has hit. What do we
threat? There's no overarching reason why this is the time we sent this out. It's just one tool in the toolbox to be prepared in the 21st century for emergencies. This is a scenario that people do not feel very confident or prepared for. And so, you know, we wanted to meet that need.
Well, how does telling people to go inside meet the need to be confident in that scenario? It's absolutely ridiculous.
The world is not getting less complicated. I don't know if there's ever the perfect moment to talk about nuclear preparedness, but this is not directly tied to anything happening in Russia or any other part of the world.
You know, and they specifically have to deny the Russia thing. Lovely.
You know, TV, the movies can take a lot of liberties, and you know, we don't know. First of all, again, we don't expect this to happen, but you know, we don't know what anything would look like, and so you know, people need those tools. I think for some people, you know, it's scary, and we understand that, but you know, other people have thanked us that we are broaching this topic that really you never want to have to talk or think about.
Who thanked you? Who thanked you? Who thanked you for that worthless piece of trash that you called the PSA? The establishment? To instill fear into people? Or if something were to occur like that, oh, I don't know, have them comply to your BS? Gross. Folks, I am a documentary filmmaker. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture are free. I need you to watch them, share them, and then check out the information. Check the information out for yourself. It's all documented in there. And you need to learn about 9/11. Go watch Fabled Enemies and see Joey B before he became Zombie J. You know, when Biden was a bag man for these people, when he was actually doing stuff. You want to get into Middle Eastern policy? Okay? And there's a big section on Israel and 9/11 in Fabled Enemies. There's a big section of Joey B and Pakistan and their involvement in 9/11. There's a big section on Saudi Arabia and their involvement, and that's why we have that nexus, and we discussed that today. And maybe he's going to be sacrificed for that very agenda that continues into Invisible Empire, New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. You want to support this broadcast? Buy me a coffee. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. The download link, the link to that is below. Thank you, Odyssey, for backing me up. You can actually find that 60,000 AMA here on Odyssey. You know why? Because they don't censor me. So if you want to see why I just got censored again and maybe almost thrown off YouTube again, thank you, Odyssey, for doing that. But we rumbling. That's where you find everything uncensored. I actually just popped up my interview from a few months ago with Patrick Byrne, who I believe was set to be before the January 6th committee today. I'm not sure if that actually happened. Let's see. We got the Podbean for the audio RSS feed and the vidcast, and we on Rockfin. And there's that Burn thing also available on Rockfin. By the way, it looks like Rockfin is also going to have Alex's War, the Alex Jones movie, and I think it's going to be not a Q&A, but Glenn Greenwald's going to be interviewing the filmmaker and Alex on July 23rd, I think a week before the broadcast. So you can actually watch the movie on Rockfin exclusively in a pay-per-view model. I think it's $4.99 before anywhere else. Pretty cool. Let me repeat that. Pretty cool. Subscribe to me, $9.99 a month or $99.99 for the year, and you get everybody else out there, including people like Jay Dyer, Steve Poikonen, Pasta Jardula, Max Blumenthal, Frank's Analysis, and so much more. Guys, it's not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. Stay strong, because I love you, and I'll see you on the